So, good evening. On behalf of the American Friends Service Committee, Bill of Rights Defense Committee, the American Civil Liberties Union of Massachusetts, and the City of Northampton, I would like to sincerely thank you for coming to tonight's forum. We have some exciting speakers lined up for tonight, but first I'm excited to introduce a band of political folk singers who sing anthems of resistance with high-energy vocal harmonies that nurture your hopes for a better world. Please welcome Red Valley Fog. Bienvenidos en nombre de la Comité Occidental de Massachusetts, AFSC, la Unión de Libertades Americanas Civiles de Massachusetts, ACLU, la Comité Defensiva del Acto de Derechos de ORTC y el Ciudad de Northampton. Agradezco a todos por su asistencia en nuestro foro. Tenemos presentadores animados, pero primero estoy contento de introducir cantantes políticas que canten himnos de resistencia con energía alta que alimentan su esperanza por un mundo mejor. Por favor, dar la bienvenida a Red Valley Fog.
Thanks everybody for coming out. My name is Ben Grosscup. My friend Dan Ingalls. We're Red Valley Fog, and we have some songs tonight by Phil Oakes. This one is called Bracero, and it was written during the 1960s, and it was about basically the ways in which migrant labor is mistreated in this country, and the sort of existential dilemmas of being in that situation. And I think it says a lot about how people treat migrant labor in this country today.
Across the thirsty border, Bracero, come bring your hungry body to the golden fields of plenty, from a peso to a penny, Bracero. Bracero, come pick the fruit of yellow, break the flower from the berry, purple grapes will fill your belly, Bracero. Welcome to California. Dust will draw you thirsty, while your muscles beg for mercy, Bracero. In the shade of your sombrero, drop your sweat upon the soil, like a fruit your youth can spoil, Bracero. Shacks that could be cages, they will take from your pages, Bracero. Come sing about tomorrow with a jingle of the dollar, and forget your crooked collar, Bracero. Of trouble, besides we have to pay them double, Bracero. Oh, but if you feel you're falling, if you find the pace is killing, there are others who are willing, Bracero.
I'm an intern at the American Friends Service Committee, and we're all here tonight to focus on some important issues, preserving civil rights in our community. The Preserving Our Civil Rights campaign is a local campaign to protect and preserve the civil and constitutional rights of all people who live and work in Northampton. The campaign has three central and related themes, and those are to protect residents' Fourth Amendment rights to freedom from unwarranted domestic surveillance, to protect immigrants in our community, particularly in regards to unjust federal enforcement programs, and to address racial profiling in our community with a commitment to greater transparency and accountability. These three issues are overlapping and interconnected and unite people across identities and political concerns in the community of Northampton. Residents, citizens, immigrants, activists of color, white activists, community organizations, students, and everyone who lives in, everyone hear me okay? And everyone who lives and works in Northampton face shared concerns about maintaining and increasing access to civil and constitutional rights. Here with us tonight are 5 panelists to speak more deeply about the issues we face and the ways they are interrelated. In the first panel, we'll be hearing from 3 of the panelists who will speak to the 3 main themes of the campaign. In the following panel, we'll hear from all 5 of the speakers with a question and answer session. Our 5 panelists tonight are Falguni Sheth, professor at Hampshire College, Hasmin Torrejon from the Campaign for Justice for Jason, Bill Newman from the American Civil Liberties Union, Hazel Dardano, community activist with the Alliance to Develop Power, and Rich Hernandez from the Northampton Human Rights Commission. So now I'll pass it off to Falguni Sheth, and I just ask all of you to please introduce yourself a little more as you start. Thank you.
Okay. Well, is this on?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you for inviting me to be here today. Hello. Okay. Thank you so much for inviting me to be here today. This is a very important issue and one that's particularly close to my heart. I have to say I'm not a data person, so you're not going to get too much of that from me. I teach and write about politics over at Hampshire College, and I've been involved in a fair number of different kinds of immigrant rights issues over the last, especially 11 years. Somehow the last decade has motivated, I think, a number of us in ways that it didn't before. I was also on the Immigrant Rights Commission of San Francisco for a few years. I want to talk a little bit tonight about the Secure Communities bill and perhaps to kind of share a few thoughts on it. I don't think I have anything particularly insightful to say, but just want to make a couple comments about it. My understanding, and I'm just going to read a definition of what generally the Secure Communities bill is. It's an information sharing program between federal immigration and customs enforcement and local law enforcement agencies. Under Secure Communities, local jails run all arrestees' fingerprints through not only criminal databases, but also immigration databases in an effort to deport convicted drug traffickers, gang members, and other violent criminals. This screening happens even if the local prosecutor decides that there's no basis for a criminal charge. So it's kind of interesting to be here today. A couple years after, well, not even, right? A couple years after the election of President Obama. Is anybody shocked that we're here today? In a world in which apparently we thought all of this was going to go away. I got to tell you, I'm not very shocked. It's a little sad that under the Obama administration, the war on terror, but also the war on immigrants has been ramped up. It makes George Bush look like my favorite uncle at this point. And in particular, I want to read you a couple, okay, I lied, a couple statistics here. Apparently, ICE records show, and this is as of last August, that 79% of people who were deported under Secure Communities actually didn't have any criminal records. Neither had they been picked up for low-level offenses like traffic violations. Well, I mean, under that, I think I would have been deported about 40 times over, and or for juvenile mischief. And apparently, of the 47,000 people who've already been deported, only about 20% had been charged with or convicted of serious, quote, level 1 crimes, like assault and drug dealing. Now, also under Secure Communities, the national average of deportees with no criminal records was 26%. But that figure varied around the country. So in Maricopa County, Arizona, the figure was 54% of deportees who had no criminal records. In Travis County, Texas, it was 82%. So I guess I want to kind of reflect a little bit on what it means to talk about secure communities. I mean, presumably, the provenance behind this bill is to make our communities, I don't know, secure, right? Safe, something like that. And yet, in a way, what it's done is not only made our communities not secure, but really made them kind of hostile, violent, antagonistic, distrustful. And in a way, what we're looking at, and I use this term quite technically, not hysterically, but quite technically, we're looking at the urging upon us by the feds of a local police state. And by police state, what do I mean? What I mean is that a police state is one that has no checks and balances on authorities, neither on municipal authorities, nor on state authorities, nor on federal authorities. It's one at which any moment one can be at the mercy of a federal or a state or a local official, not because you've done something wrong, but merely because there's an authority in front of you. That's a police state. When you wake up and you're not actually sure what it is that you've done wrong, why it is that you're viewed as a criminal, but intrinsically, at the very core of your being, you know that you can be detained, jailed, deported, for no reason. Here's the other thing. A police state also doesn't acknowledge three things that we take for granted in a place, well, that I used to take for granted a decade ago, right? A writ of habeas corpus, in other words, the charge by which, right, I'm accused of wrongdoing, It doesn't ask for judicial review of the crime in question before starting or finishing deportation proceedings. In other words, I don't get to go up before a judge. And it doesn't acknowledge these little things that some of us used to have a long time ago. These little things called rights. Right? So police state pretty much does away with those three. And those three, right? Political rights, habeas corpus, judicial review, they are, in some way, the things that we use in order to confirm and reinforce the fact that we're human and that we're fallible and that we can make mistakes. That judges can make mistakes, that police officers can make mistakes, that immigration officials can make mistakes, that our neighbors can make mistakes when they're guessing whether or not we've done something wrong or not. Right? So, in a way, and this is really what the Obama administration is urging upon us, is to cooperate with federal authorities, right, in order to continue to reinforce a police state. Now, it seems to me that if the objective at hand is a safer community, right, at least for me, I don't know about you, but a safer community is a community in which I feel I can trust my neighbors, my colleagues, my friends. The way I build trust is to know that if I approach someone to report a crime or ask for help because some injustice was done to me, that I won't be thrown in jail. But essentially, this is what Secure Communities is asking, right? That if you are an undocumented migrant, or if you're basically, it doesn't matter, right? We don't actually know. It's if you're brown, if you look like you don't belong here, then you get to be thrown in jail and possibly vulnerable to being deported. So if I want to build trust, then it seems to me that what I really want, right, is to know my neighbors, to be able to talk to them, to know that if I approach them, that if I'm a witness to a crime, that I can actually contribute, participate towards being a good neighbor without actually being penalized on it. Now, the other irony of this Secure Communities bill, mind you again, it's imposed upon us by the Department of Homeland Security, urged on by the Obama administration, is these are groups, presumably, right, democracy, groups supposedly representing us. So that they're urging us to turn in neighbors who don't quite look like us, who seem to be different, who seem to be from away. Right? Really quite a primitive impulse. It's not a bill that represents us, but rather it's a bill that urges us to turn on one another so that politicians can capitalize on our fear and xenophobic impulses in order to continually be reelected to office. So Secure Communities, this bill in fact, leads to insecure, unsafe, violent, and hostile communities. Renders it a police state and an insecure community. So that's all I want to say for the moment.
Hello everyone, my name is Jasmine Torrejon, and I am one of the lead organizers from the Justice for Jason campaign. There are some other of the lead organizers here tonight as well, so hey guys. And right now, so I've started doing most of my community organizing through the Justice for Jason campaign, and right now I'm also continuing to do community organizing at a different level in the north end of Springfield. Through an organization called the North End Organizing Network. And so I just came from work and I'm really excited about, we're about to launch a campaign to start organizing in this community, and there hasn't been organizing for like over 50 years, so I'm really amped. But I want to talk to you about a little bit of J4J, and also let you know why I'm here today. And the reason why is because I believe this ordinance is a way to challenge the systematic inequality in our quote-unquote justice system. And in the Justice for Jason campaign, I and the other organizers really were in a battle with this justice system to help and support Jason be able to have his life back. And I know the majority of you probably know about Jason's case, but I'll try and give a brief overview. On February 3rd of 2008, Jason Vassell, who was a black student majoring in biology, and I think he had one more semester left before graduating, was in his dorm when two white men who were not students threatened him, yelled racial invective to him, and essentially started a racially motivated attack. In response to this attack, Jason defended himself with a pocket knife, injuring his assailants. Now, an important fact to know is that while these assailants, after they got injured, they still decided to come back towards Jason and tell him to finish the fight because they wanted to instigate this violence. And I think that's a very important thing to point out from the beginning. As a result, the person who was charged, despite being in his home, even though it's a dormitory room, that's his home, he was charged, and the other two white men were basically given a slap on the wrist. And he wasn't charged with just some, a little basic misdemeanor. He was charged with 2 Class A felonies that could have resulted in 30 years in prison if he was convicted of it. So here you have, to paint an even deeper picture, Jason himself was a man that didn't have even a scratch mark on his record, and 2 white men who had an extensive record of racially motivated attacks. The black man, guilty until proven innocent. The 2 white men with extensive histories. Oh, it's okay, guys. You made a mistake. That's okay. You were drunk. That's fine. Slap on the wrist. Go back and do your duty. So, it was very shocking to a lot of members in this community when this case was brought out because, this is a progressive town. We want to believe that in this community there's better because we as the constituents believe in a better community for ourselves. But this justice system proved to us that we are not too far apart from what's happening nationally. And I think something else that brings this picture to even a bigger light is that whether or not you question Jason's actions or you found nothing wrong with how Jason responded to this racist attack, the bigger picture is how Jason was approached by the prosecution and how these 2 other white men were approached. And why were they approached so differently? Why was one guilty immediately and why were the other 2 not? And so throughout the Justice for Jason campaign and with support of the legal defense team, we tried to prove that there was a selective prosecution happening in our community based on Jason's race. And through this process, we were able to get some data from the prosecution's office. It wasn't too detailed, and it actually revealed a lot of areas where the police department and the prosecutor's office could be doing a better job of reporting on who's being charged and with what. But despite that, some of the numbers that we got show that in this community, we are still charging people of color at much higher rates than their white counterparts. And to give you a sense of some of those numbers, and once again, these aren't fully accurate because we didn't get all of the records, but one data shows that in the district courts, blacks were charged 9.02 times at the rate of their white counterparts. And in the superior courts, black African Americans were charged at 12.99 and 21.87 times their white counterparts. And this is in this community. This Hampshire County includes Northampton and I think all the way to Amherst and some other of the smaller towns. I don't think that this is not a big booming city with people of color. So where are these people of color coming from and how are they being charged so much more than this great majority of white folks? So the question I have for myself and for you is why is this? Why is it that this injustice happened to Jason? And why is it that it is normalized in our everyday life in this justice system, locally and nationally? And it's clear that, the reason why I started with the justice system is because it's clear it's not a justice system, it's an unjust system. And we need to do something in order to change that. And sure, I could ramble and say, man, this system sucks. That's not going to change anything. I could say we need to turn the system upside down and create something from the grassroots level. And yes, I believe in that and I will fight till the day I die for that. But it's not going to happen, immediately. It's not going to say I'm going to do this and then all of a sudden tomorrow we have this perfect system. But one of the reasons why I believe in what's happening here with this form and with this ordinance is because we're taking a step towards that bigger movement. And we're trying to show that in Northampton, we can start to create a system and a community where there is true justice. And that we can begin to mirror that in the nation so that they can see what a community looks like when there is a system of justice and how that impacts the community. Oh, sorry, I'm getting a little bit excited again. So. I think one of the other main points to this ordinance, and so something that we always have to do in that, and Justice for Jason was really a key thing, is to hold our elected officials accountable. And in this case, I guess the prosecutor's office or the DA's office is the first place to start. During Jason's case, the main person we targeted was the district attorney, Elizabeth Scheibel, who decided to bring these charges unfairly. Right now we have a new DA, but that doesn't mean he's a better person. And I don't even know if he's in this room. He should be in this room. But we need to hold them accountable because they make promises and we have to hold them accountable to those promises. Otherwise, they stay in their office, they get their paycheck, and people get charged however they want them to get charged, and no one has a say in whether or not that's a fair thing to do or that they did it fairly. So in the ordinance, I think you got, the AFSC group is probably going to get into more detail about the different things they're asking, but I think we have to realize, one, accountability is important, and it doesn't just mean that the DA says, yes, I'm doing a great job, but show us that you're doing a great job. Give us the reports. Give us deeper reports than the ones that they gave us at Justice for Jason's discovery. Show us all the data. If you can't show us all the data, that means that you are not proud of the work that you're doing and you're afraid that you've been doing something wrong. So I'm going to move from that point. I think I've nailed it down a couple of times already, brought it to the floor. But, you know, I think we should envision this community and see it as a step in the right direction and see this ordinance as leading by example. And Northampton is a great community. I live here and I love it, but it's not in as bad conditions as communities like Springfield or in communities in the Midwest where racist prosecutions happen normally every day. And so I think we have to bear that in mind, but also be proud of the work that we're doing and hope that this catches on to those communities so that we can spread and we can continue building. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you very much.
Good evening. Is this on?
Nope.
Someone going to help?
High tech, the button. I'm Bill Newman. I run the Western Massachusetts Legal Office of the American Civil Liberties Union. And I was asked to talk tonight about local surveillance. Let me tell you what I'm not going to talk about. We've had some community forums on this. I'm not going to talk about federal wiretaps and sneak and peek provisions and national security letters and Patriot Act provisions and warrantless wiretapping and border searches in the TSA and a lot of other things that you should most assuredly be worried about. But we're going to worry about something else, which you should also be worried about. And I want to break this little talk down into two parts, what we know and what we don't know. First of all, what the feds are doing is critically important. Someone can get into your computer without a warrant. Someone can search your personal papers and all your bank records through a letter sent out from the Department of Justice without any judicial oversight whatsoever. You should be concerned about that. But most law enforcement and most law enforcement dollars actually are spent and happen at the local level. About 90% of it nationwide or more. So let me tell you what we have done to try to find out about surveillance at the local level. On November 4th last year, on behalf of the ACLU, I sent a public records request. That's the state version of the Freedom of Information Act request. And I sent it to the Western Massachusetts Homeland Security Advisory Council. That is part of the Franklin Regional County of Governments, what they call the COG. And the COG, the Western Massachusetts Homeland Security, which is part of the COG, that includes the 4 western counties, Hampshire and Hamden, Franklin and Berkshire. That COG is literally the COG that distributes Homeland Security money in Western Massachusetts. So I sent them a request that said, I want to see all your documents pertaining to a whole bunch of things. for the last 5 years. And it took them some months to respond, but in fact, in January, I did get a response. I got a CD back, which had a compilation of any number of documents from the Franklin Regional Council of Governments, and I thought you would be interested to know what they said. Since 2004, and for the 5 fiscal years after that, the counties, the 4 western counties, have received over $30 million in Homeland Security money distributed through FEMA. Now, under the statute, 25% of those funds have to be dedicated towards terrorism prevention, planning, organization, training, and equipment. Now, breathe easy for about a half a minute, and then it gets bad. Okay? What you can breathe easy about is what the information we receive shows is that a lot of the money has been used for first responder communication equipment, first responder protection, critical infrastructure, and pandemic preparation. No problem. However, we also know that some of the funding, and specifically $2 million in 2005 in Western Massachusetts, was specifically targeted for information and intelligence sharing. And the report shows that although the money was distributed for that purpose, we don't know exactly what it was spent on yet. Now, there were a couple of different phases of how the money was spent. I don't want to concern myself with what happens. There's a program involving reporting to police departments of inmates who were released from the Hampden County House of Correction. But I would like to talk about the second phase for a minute, because there was a memorandum of agreement signed by virtually all of the local police departments. And that memorandum of agreement says that there will be instantaneous exchange of information relating to various criminal activity. There will be appropriate exchange of information regarding criminal investigations, and, you can stop breathing easy, sharing of timely information regarding sensitive matters related to Homeland Security, which, by the way, is an amorphous criterion that can encompass any kind of suspicious activity. So, there's this agreement between the various police departments in the 4 western counties that they are going to share information. And what we don't have yet from this data is what information is being shared from local police departments to the Massachusetts fusion centers. The fusion centers should be more properly called surveillance centers. There are, I think, 100 plus in the United States now. There are a couple in Massachusetts. And the federal government calls them fusion center because they fuse information. They are, in fact, surveillance centers because they collect information and data and surveillance, and they put it together. It comes from 2 different sources. The information comes directly from local, state, and local police, as well as from private corporations, credit card companies, your airlines, your Visa card, your toll booth records using the Mass Bike and Easy Pass, and anything else you do that is electronic, that comes from your computer where you buy something, communicate with someone, or otherwise utilize almost any program you have, including from those various platforms that we have so much fun carrying around in our pockets. Now, the information also comes from databases that are available to the federal government, and then they fuse this information. They also get something else. They get something called SARS, S-A-R, SARS, Suspicious Activity Reports. This is raw data provided by local police departments to the fusion centers, or in the instance of this Western Massachusetts collective, law enforcement collective, that is just data. It's a suspicious activity report. Someone says, that person's suspicious. I saw that person doing something maybe very nervous. And that data, once entered, never leaves. So the suspicious activity reports, the SARS, can be completely wrong. They can be having you doing something that is not suspicious at all. That's First Amendment protected. That's within your rights as a person to do. Absolutely legal. And that report will follow you in a job search, in an application for a law enforcement license of some sort, perhaps, for the rest of your life. And oh, by the way, then it will be distributed to 30 or 50 or 100 other agencies that will take the same wrong information about you and pass it on as if it's true. There's no criteria which governs how SARs are used, when they're implemented, or why they're implemented. So, there is, by the way, and we did this at another community forum, a bill pending in Massachusetts to give the legislature and the governor some oversight of the fusion centers in Massachusetts. Want to do something productive, work on passage of that bill. So, where are we now with regard to local law enforcement and surveilling you? And the answer to that is we don't quite know. We do know that there is an agreement between local law enforcement. We don't know how much of that information goes to the fusion centers, the surveillance centers, and we don't know how much information or how often information comes back from the surveillance centers. I do intend to write some more public records requests to local departments to see what data we can secure about that. I'd like to end with what I think is a crucial point here in terms of protecting our privacy. We live in an information age where data is shared in a nanosecond. And that information can be right or wrong or biased or inaccurate, racist, motivated perhaps by political considerations or personal animus or vendettas. And once that information is in a database, it never comes out. It is crucial to work on the gatekeeping aspect of what information about you goes into the law enforcement and terrorism databases, which are, by the way, now merged in the fusion centers. The fusion centers were supposed to be about terrorism and preventing terrorism. Well, there didn't seem to be enough to do, so now it's law enforcement. Well, that didn't be enough to do, so now it's anything suspicious. So now it's anything that any government law enforcement agency wants to put together and compile data about us. The initial gatekeeping function is crucial because the garbage that goes in the beginning will stay with you for a lifetime. And therefore it is important that our local law enforcement agencies, and I make absolutely no accusations that any of them are doing any of this, we will try to find out who is doing what. But it is crucial that our local law enforcement not be part of this problem, and that rather it be part of the solution. And that it not be used, that local law enforcement not be used to put data and collect data about us that can be inaccurate and wrong, and which is, by and large, going to be protected First Amendment activity for you to stand on the street corner or stand in a demonstration and to hold a sign and express yourself politically and to go to this meeting and not have it end up as part of your file. Mine's hopeless. It doesn't matter. Forget me. But your file should please. Let's protect everybody else. Look, the stakes here are big. There's no question about that. It's not just that your privacy will be lost or can be lost today, because the privacy, if we lose it on a local level, and we lose it across the state on a local level, there is a privacy right that we will never regain because the technology never gives it back. Thank you.
Thank you very much. At this point in the evening, please turn to the person sitting next to you and introduce yourself. We have a set of questions about why you're here and what the campaign means to you. It looks just like this, and it should be on every other seat. And so we'll also have volunteers circulating around the room, answering any questions you may have, and also pairing people up who don't have partners. Answers to those questions. We're hoping that that reflection and sharing you did may have prompted some questions. Right now we're going to start the second panel. This is going to be a discussion panel. So first we're going to hear from our two remaining panelists, and then we're going to open up for question and answer. Also, Jeff Napolitano from the American Friends Service Committee is going to be joining the panel to answer questions and to answer any questions you may have about the campaign and local legislation around the campaign.
First we're going to hear from Hazel Dardano, and then Rich Hernandez, and then as people have questions, we're going to take questions up here at the mic, so we can create a little line up here. Great, so I'm going to turn it over to Hazel. Thank you.
Hi, how are you? I'm glad to be here, and I hope you will be able to understand my English. I think that I have very strong accent now. Well, I've been working or helping immigrants. I am an immigrant, you know. I come to this country with a student visa, but I was able to fix my paper when the law from 1982 that they say everybody that come before 1982, they can fix paper, and that's just the way that I did. The funny thing was, in that moment, you know, I always keep my student visa, but it was very easy to come to this country to get the Social Security. I remember that I went to the building, the City Hall building with my passport from El Salvador, fill out a paper, and they say to me, you're going to receive your Social Security in 2 weeks. And that one happened by mail. I went to the police station with my license from El Salvador. I just get there, through the test through the computer, same question, and they give me my license from here. That was the easy way to, everything was. Then I went to the school to learn English. Then a few months later, I started to work in a restaurant, you know, to make some money, to help my parents, because the situation in El Salvador was when we started the Civil War for 13 years. And then I was working, you know, but I still went to the school, because I went to the New England School for Acupuncture to learn acupuncture. And I was legal by that time, you know, and I was keep my student visa. But I was working and paying taxes every year. What happened when the law come, that they said everybody that come before 1982 will be right to fix it up his paper. Then I went there, and then because the church put people to fill up paper without pay, you know, free. Then I go and talk with the guy, and the guy say to me, I don't think so you can fix the paper because you don't qualify for this law. I say, how come? Well, because you are not illegal, you have a student visa. And I say, how come I've been working in this country, paying taxes every year, and now you tell me that I cannot fix a paper? I say, wait a minute, you have been working in this country? Yes, I have a Social Security that I receive when I come. And I say, oh, you was not allowed to work. That put me in the legal situation, and that's the way that I fix my paper. That's how stupid is the law, you know. Now if you are illegal, this is a punish. Now you have, you know what I find out 2 or 3 days ago? I have a friend of mine, because every time that I find out that something that they can do, I tell them to do that in the way to fix paper. And I went from ADP, that they bring a lawyer, and I went to all the information that this lawyer is giving to us, you know, about how people can fix paper. And then, you know, because when I was working in Catholic Charities, we have an office that works for immigration, for immigrants. And then, you know, they say to them, every time that somebody gets married, you know, before you get married with American citizen and you can fix your paper without problem. Now, if you don't have the I-94, you have to come back to your country. And they tell you, you can be there 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, waiting for the resident come to you and come back for your husband or for your wife and your kids. It means like if you're an American citizen and married with a woman that is illegal here, and if she has the I-94, come with the tourist visa and stay in this country and is illegal now, with this I-94, she can fix the paper without move from this country. But if you come illegal and doesn't have the I-94, you have to come back. And you have to pay a lot of money, you know, to the lawyers over here to bring the wife back or the husband back. Because that case happening in our church in Amherst. The lawyer told the lady, you know, it's better you go. The father, before Kennedy died, Father Brennan went to Boston to talk with him to try to help to bring this woman back, because she back to El Salvador with 3 kids. They had to pay all this ticket in the plane to go back. Finally, 2 years later, the woman was able to come back. The guy had to pay back all the 4 tickets in the plane to come back. It's a lot of money that these immigrant people have to pay to fix paper now. You know, when I fix my paper, I think that I pay $300. That's the amount that I pay for everything. Doctor, X-ray, fingerprints, and the fee for the immigration, for the green card. Now, I asked my friend, the one that I give you, you know, because the one from El Salvador and Central American people, you know, they have the job permit. With that job permit, if they have an emergency in the country, they can ask immigration to give you a permit to go. And they give you the permit to go, but you have to use a lawyer to get that permit. I mean, like you have to pay the lawyer. And then you go there, and then when you come back by plane, you get the I-94. And that's the tricky thing now. Then I told her, you know, because when I went to ADP with this lawyer there to give all the information, I say, what she needs is to get the I-94. And I say to her, go to El Salvador. And she say, I am scared to go. She say, I'm going to get stuck there. And I give you the card for the lawyer. I say, talk with this lawyer. He's going to make sure that you come back. And then he went there, you know, with the son that born here. They went together to El Salvador. And then she come back, of course, when he come back 2 weeks after, he get the I-94. And now she already have the appointment to go for the immigration thing for the green card. But what happened, I said, how much you pay? I said, oh, it's $8,000 that I've been spending this paper. How much you pay to immigration now for the green card? It's $1,000 just for the green card. And $600 for the forgiveness letter that she had to send to the government to ask for forgiveness to be illegal in this country. You know, these people, that's a new thing because this hasn't happened before. Now everybody have that go to fix paper to be illegal in this country. They have to have a letter asking for forgiveness to be illegal in this country and pay $600. And every time it's going to be more and more. Look at what happened with the people that have jobs, the immigrants that have permit to go to work. When they started to pay for that permit, it was only $75. 5 or 6 years ago, they was already paying $350 every year for everybody in the family to work. You know, they pay, and then they pay taxes because they pay them by check and they have to pay taxes too. They don't receive any service, no health care, no coupons, no nothing. The only one that receive insurance is the kids, you know, because the kids, no matter if it's a legal kid here, the law in Massachusetts, they have to have insurance. You see, even if it's a legal kid, is younger than 20 years old, I think, they have to have insurance, even the dentist insurance. The mask will give you to them, the kid, and not the adult. And now what happened is, you know, there are so many people from El Salvador, and maybe the other countries too, that they have more than 20 years here, be working with that permit. They already have his own business, his own house, but they are still illegal in this country. Because if the law doesn't change, and they decide don't give you that permit anymore, they will be in the legal situation. And they have to leave the country. And then, you know, it's one over here, I think it's in Northampton or Florence. That one was the Ecuadorian guy. What happened with the people of South America is that they don't have a work permit. They are completely legal in this country. But what they do is they get the ID for pay taxes. That means that because most of the people from Ecuador, it's very seem to see, you know, that they have different, like the people from El Salvador are in restaurant, people from Ecuador are in construction, electrician, carpenter, masonry, all that kind of stuff. But these people get the ID to pay taxes when they work for, because they push his own company. They are very hard workers and very smart people. Very, very smart and very honest too. It's sad to see a guy, you know, this guy over here, they have the house already and everything, and was married with a woman from El Salvador. What happened? They deport him. The woman gets stuck with the house. He have to rent part of the house, and on the way to support the house, I don't know if she already sold the house because she was not able to support the house without him. What happened with another one in El Salvador? Here they decide to go because he say, I am tired. Every time that they took me to immigration, I had to pay $500 to the lawyer, and they never fix anything for me. I have to go, he say, and then he left. He's back there. Most of the women from Ecuador that work over there doing cleaning, you know, they driving without license. Because immigrants here are not able to have a license. You can go to Rhode Island and get a license there, or Providence, you know, but not in Massachusetts. They are not able to have a license. And then what they do is driving with a license, ask another people that insure the car for them, But then, you know, when like they say that suspicion was another lady that was cleaning houses in Belchertown, was the first time they go to that house. And of course, you know, she was going around and around to try to find the house. The police saw her that was like a suspicious woman, you know, and stopped her and give you a ticket and tell her to call somebody to come to pick up the car. She never got to do the house anymore because she was scared to go to Belchertown. You know, it's very stressful, the situation that they live. Like every day, they don't know if they're going to come back home. And then the other thing that made me laughing about the law here, you know, in my country, when we have the Civil War, United States bring this group, you know, that work for human, what do you say, human right or human, you know, when you do something wrong to the people, I think it's human right. Yeah, I think it's something in human right, you know, that we cannot treat nobody in the bad way, you know, because that's wrong in the way that we treat people over there. And then I say, but how come the human rights work in the other countries, but the human right doesn't work in this country? How come that these children, that they are American citizens, that the father are illegal? Yes, but the children is American citizen. The children have the right to have their parents with them. Yes or no?
Yes. Yes.
This is American citizen. He have the right to have his family with him. What? The law over here destroyed these families. They don't know the damage that they are doing to these people because they deport the parents, but they keep the children here. They did to the lady in Springfield. They sent her to Guatemala and they put the children in foster home. You think that this is right? No. And this is inhumanity. Is that one go again to the human right? And that's what I don't get in the law in this country. You know, they kill somebody, they put women in jail because they kill a child that was maybe 2 months or 3 months and they put it in the dump. But they don't put nobody in jail when they kill the children inside the mother. For me, it's the same thing. For me, it's the same thing. We have to respect human beings' life. No matter if they are black, white, or what country or what language they speak. We are one and we are family, no matter where we are. We come to this country to work. The immigrants don't come here to steal money. Don't come here to live free. They come here to work. I have a document that maybe you like to have it, because I know that I cannot speak too much. But it's a document that is happening in the town in Florida. The name is Jupiter. That one was in the New York Times in February 25. They get this article. I bring some copies that somebody's interested in reading. It's a town in Florida that they have a lot of immigrants from Guatemala. At the beginning, you know, people get some racing against to them, but finally it was a group there, like you are doing here in Northampton, to try to help and resolve this situation. Now they are sisters with the town in Guatemala where these people come from. And they have so many programs for the immigrants that they are working together. I think it's something that you can hear in Northampton. Maybe you can read this one and see if something like this you can do here. Of course, over here we don't see the worker in the corner waiting for somebody to pick up to give you a job. But if you go to Boston, you can see that one. That people go to the corner to find somebody to pick it up them to bring for the job for the day. Over here we don't see it, but this one is still happening around here. Thank you very much for your passion.
Hi, I'm Richard Hernandez, Human Rights Commissioner for Northampton. I was listening to one of the panelists say things about how the government encourages city officials and state government to do things. And, you know, I have to admit this because, you know, it's kind of embarrassing. I've never once read our Constitution and entirely. The whole thing. Not most. I know most people haven't, but I'll admit it though. I'll admit it. You know, but at least that takes a minute to admit it though. It does. It does. So as I was reading it, you know, it dawns on me that, you know, the inconsistencies how government is run today, mainly local government, okay? And basically, I had something written before that I was going to say, but after reading it 2 weekends ago and sitting there really thinking, I just kind of put something together, you know, as to my thoughts on what we are doing here, why we're here, you know. So what I wrote was, Congress often seeks to exercise its power by offering or encouraging the states to implement national programs consistent with national minimum standards as a way to offset their duties and responsibilities. And this lack of accountability uses valuable resources. For instance, they use local law should not be used to fund federal responsibility, and such actions could reduce. Such actions could result in reduction of local law enforcement resources and thus constitute a cost shift. It requires training, which costs the taxpayer money, which mainly comes about money here. It has a negative impact on our communities as it undermines the relationship between local law agencies and the communities they serve. Also, to point out, probably a very important thing that I read in the Constitution, or, you know, on the side of the Constitution and reading notes here and there and going from website to website, a lot of what's going on is very preemptive to our civil rights. Now, what I mean by that, it's preemptive when the federal system encourages state governments to participate in or enact its federal laws with no clause in the Constitution to authorize it. If the Constitution doesn't authorize it, then by definition of the law, it is illegal, and it opens the door to civil lawsuits based on the preemption clause. I read in the Constitution that the Constitution limits the ability of the federal government to use state government as an instrument of the national government. If that's true, then using local law as an instrument of national government is preemptive to the Constitution, therefore making it a constitutional violation. So, in closing, as a human rights commissioner and a liaison, and in principle, and on my own behalf, I support the AFSC, the BRDC, too many kind of bringing us down, and the ACLU of Massachusetts. And once their ordinance reaches its final phase, I'm confident that the commission will, you know, support it as well. Thank you.
So thank you again to all of our panelists. We're going to take questions now, so if anyone wants to come up, please feel free.
Not everybody at once.
Don't run.
Hi, thank you all for bringing us out here. My question is to the ordinance and the effect of this ordinance. My name is Elliot Terry, by the way. And I believe that we dance around the word fascism. Judge Michael Ryan was arrested in the parking lot here in Northampton. And during his trial, he used the word. He actually said that this seems to be a fascist state. And yet he was attacked. Everyone's attacked. And I think we are in a police state. And the faster we accept that, the better we'd be that this is our reality. And if that is our reality, what good is this ordinance?
Right. So, having worked on a draft of what we've got so far, I can sort of answer that question. I think I can mostly answer that question. And there's three parts to it. The first part is about surveillance, data collection. So how the local law enforcement shares information with the state police and with the federal government. And what this would do, what we propose this would do, would be to, at the very least, have there be sunshine on this, that there be reporting about what exactly is transmitted back and forth, if anything, right? The second part of this goes to the issue of immigration, and there's two parts to it. And one is the federal government has said that this new Secure Communities program that, you know, as of last year deported over 400,000 folks, cities and towns can opt out of it. You don't have to enforce it. It's actually nice of them to do this, and so we intend to opt out of it. The other part of it is that when any city municipal employee including the police, interacts with the residents, with the people in the city, they should do so irrespective and without asking about their nation of origin. And the final part about this is collecting the information about who gets stopped, their gender, and their race. And this would, again, there is no formal reporting that's done, and this would say, okay, we at least want to know what the numbers are. We want to at least know what we're dealing with. This is not a cure-all, right? But this is definitely a concrete first step into being more transparent and knowing, at least the citizenry, knowing what's going on, and knowing what is involved and what information is being collected and transmitted. That's the crux of it.
Although, can I add something to this? Okay, so, you know, Jeff, you're right. I mean, so these are the concrete kind of responses that we need to have. But I mean, I think the gentleman actually asked a very interesting question that we should be pondering, which is that if it's a police state, what's the point, right? And let me suggest that just because it's a police state, and I'm not sure I want to accept it, rather, right? I mean, I think we probably do have to kind of come face to face with it. Doesn't mean I want to accept it. But I mean, I think there's a deeper question here, right? Which is to say, well, okay, so it's 2011. This is the latest. This is the latest in, well, more than a decade, but at least a new moment, right? Kind of instantiated by the Patriot Act, which Bill won't talk about because we know about it, we've heard about it, right? We kind of live it, it's the air that we breathe. But, and I think that there's, you know, we have to kind of think about what, not just this ordinance, but especially this ordinance, because this is the reason that we're here today, but what does it mean to accept it? What does it mean in terms of our relationships to each other? What does it mean in terms of the kinds of dictates that are being imposed upon us? And you're right that we can request to opt out of it, but my understanding is there are now new bills that are being proposed, right, in the House and the Senate to actually penalize communities that opt out of it. Bills that will withhold highway monies, cigarette tax monies, other monies like that. So yes, we can request to opt out of it, but there will be a punishment as well, right? And so it's not really the end of the story. And we can accept it, we can move on these ordinances, but we have to ask a serious question. What does it mean when we all waited for 8 years, right? For, what was it, January 21st, 2010? I don't know anymore, I don't do numbers. 2010, I remember all the bumper stickers. It said, I'm waiting for regime change. January 21st, 2010, and here we are.
2009.
Whatever, okay, 9, 10, one of those. 9. It feels like forever. Right? And here we are, and we're accepting this ordinance. We're accepting this. We're not actually getting pissed off that this is a war on terror, a war on migration, a war on our communities that has not ended, has not been diluted, but in fact has been ramped up. And has been ramped up by someone that we thought was going to be, I'm sorry, I'm not a Christian or a religious person, but somebody was going to be our savior. Right? So this is what the Obama administration has, in fact, encouraged us to accept. So if you accept this, okay, so let's just start voting for Republicans tomorrow. Why not? In what way has this administration suggested a different approach to our civil liberties than the administration before? Let me ask you that question. And if you can give me a good answer, I'll listen. So we can accept it, or we can come also face to face with the fact that we voted him in. Despite the fact that he promised to bring us right here. He promised it. He flew back in August of 2008, 2 months before the election, to renew FISA, to renew surveillance. He promised us that he would continue the war on immigration. He promised us that he would continue a foreign war. So we have no one else to blame but ourselves. So the reason to do something here is to exculpate ourselves, or at least try to make amends for the hell that we're wreaking on ourselves and our neighbors. That's the reason to do something. Woo!
Hi everyone, I really am grateful for this forum, and I just wanted to share another surveillance technology called ShotSpotter. That's a technology that's been implemented in the city of Springfield in high crime, high drug trafficking neighborhoods, and this is just an example of how selective communities are targeted. And ShotSpotter is supposed to be super accurate up to inches, especially if it's meant to when firearms get discharged, it's supposed to pick up gunshots basically. And it's been so when gunshots occur, the police actually get this information, and they're able to triangulate the location of where these shots occur, because of canisters that have been placed in various parts of like the top of buildings or lampposts and all that stuff. So, so ShotSpotter is supposed to be super accurate. It's supposed to be able to differentiate between like other noises that could trigger this monitor, I guess. And so you can actually find out what kind of firearm is getting discharged, how many firearms were being used. And my nephew actually, I learned about this technology because he was accused of being the shooter for this individual that died in October 14th, 2008. And right now he's facing a natural life sentence. He's appealing it. And right now there's an opportunity for a new trial, but there was an opportunity for the police to use this technology to acquit him because the supposed witnesses said, or the way that the DA's office said this crime occurred was in front of a store, and the ShotSpotter technology picked up this particular shooting 200 yards away from the store. And if it's supposed to be super accurate up to inches, when there are multiple shots, what happened? Why, didn't this technology get used to help my nephew, maintain his defend his innocence and all that? So I just wanted to mention that and to put that in everybody's radar. And I wanted to say how privileged we are in our community that we can talk about preserving our civil rights when other communities are probably talking about how do we get it back, or how do we, sort of come up from rights being so much trampled upon. And my neighbor that we were in discussion about with the yellow paper about how we came to this event, and my neighbor's privileged enough, she acknowledged, to know that she didn't really know of people getting mistreated or selectively targeted because of their membership. And I just wanted to applaud everyone here for being to come and to be educated and to have awareness, but also it's about taking action and fighting back. Thank you.
My name is Ward Morehouse. I have laryngitis, so I want to show you all can hear me. Can you hear me in the back of the room? Good. I'm with the program on corporations and democracy, and of course we're delighted to see this timely initiative being taken to preserve or nurture democracy in our community. That said, I have to think of other ways in which we can approach this challenge before us, usurpation of our democratic rights. And I think that wherever we can build bridges to others in the community, it will enhance prospects for long-term success in our struggle. And one of those is the Living Wage campaign, which is trying to get itself launched, has been launched to a degree, and provides a framework for dealing with economic exploitation by low-income people or people of color, whatever the condition may be. The moving spirit is Kitty Callahan. I don't suppose anyone else from the Living Wage Campaign Committee is here. Kitty works for the Western Mass Public Interest Office and is a very knowledgeable person. I would urge you to reach out to her, and I'll encourage her to reach out to you and build some more momentum behind this really exciting, timely, and urgent initiative that has brought us all together here. Thank you.
So, okay, I live in the neighborhood, and I wanted to stop by and see what this is all about and participate if I can. I have a concern. By the way, I forget your name for the first one here, but you are saying something, all these things you've been saying. I have been waiting to hear someone say this for the last 2 years. This is the first time that I've heard someone say it in person. Thank you so much.
But it's...
Would you consider running for president?
I think my past will disqualify me.
But more seriously, I am worried that, for instance, that there are Justice for Jason people here helping run this campaign, because preserving civil rights is not about race, it's not about being gay, it's not about what sex you are. Everyone needs civil rights. And historically in this country, there are certain groups that have enjoyed more of them than others, and we need to help give them to the people that don't have them. But when they're taken away, they're not taken away from one group, they're not taken away from one race, from one sex, from one sexuality, from one national origin. They're taken away from everyone systematically all at once. And putting the focus on race or on anything else is going to take away from our ability to combat anyone, whether it's President Obama or Muammar Gaddafi or anyone who wishes to take them away from us, because it doesn't matter what race you are. At the end of the day, the surveillance is going on for all of us. All of our phone conversations are being recorded. And it worries me that we have this, whether it's a side focus or a main focus, I don't know. I don't know enough about the campaign yet. But we can't move forward on that if we're still hung up on that. Yes, we need to provide civil rights to all the disenfranchised people, but that's not going to matter if they're taken away from everyone. So I'd like to ask the panelists if they have any thoughts on that.
I got a couple.
Thanks. I appreciate your comments. Let me suggest, though, that actually I totally agree with you that at various points in history, and I think, in fact, at every moment in history, some groups have had more rights than others. So actually, I think race does matter. That's one of the only points on which I would. Race matters, vulnerability matters. That, in fact, you know, in a certain way, I want to echo the comments of one of the prior speakers, or one of the prior members of the forum here, when she suggested that it was incredibly indulgent to talk about preserving our civil rights. And in a way, respectfully, I think this is a terrific forum. I don't want to take away from it. I think it's really, really necessary and urgent, and I thank you all for putting it together. But it is indulgent, right? I mean, let's just face it, right? We're here because we can talk about it. We're here because some of us, in fact, don't actually. Again, we're panicked now because now suddenly we have fusion centers in which everyone is potentially surveilled. Where was this outrage 8 years ago? Where was this outrage 20 years ago? But it's because, in fact, more and more people are now going to be the targets of surveillance, that there's this kind of action, that there's this kind of concern. But there are, in fact, folks of color, migrants, undocumented migrants, the fact that that is a household word suggests that not everybody's vulnerable in the same way. And so it's up to us we who have more privileges and more rights, to fight this fight. Because we're less vulnerable, because we have the ability to withstand the potential persecution that's put out there, and because we created this for other people.
I think we have time for just one more question, and we're going to try to get everybody out of here on time.
I had a question, but she covered it. So, did you?
Hey everybody. I'd like everybody to give a round of applause for all the panelists that we had tonight, all the awesome speakers. Thank you too, myself. Thanks for coming out. I'd like everybody now to look at the volunteer card that you have on your seat. Hopefully you picked up, hope you didn't sit on it, but it's okay. It probably will withstand that. It looks like this. It has Martin Luther King on it. And I'd like everybody to take a moment to fill this out. Fill out the volunteer card. Our speakers tonight have testified to the importance of this campaign in Northampton, particularly in light of the national threats to our civil and constitutional rights. And so we're going to ask all of you to play a really important role in making Northampton a model city for other communities in Massachusetts and also across the country. And when you're finished with filling out the volunteer card, you can pass them to one of the people who are already volunteering at the ends of the aisles. You can pass them down. And there are other ways that you can get involved. We're going to be canvassing. We're going to be starting a more active part of the campaign. So we're going to be canvassing almost every single Saturday in the morning from 10 to just after noon. And it's a really, really fun way to connect with people and to get other people involved. And it's a really important part of this campaign. And we're going to be trying to inform as many people as we can by going door to door and talking to people from all walks of life. And so if you can get involved doing that, that's really great. Also, if canvassing is not your thing, we're going to be having meetings with city councilors in the coming weeks, and we're going to be talking with them about the urgency of the campaign. And we're going to need constituents of councilors from every ward in Northampton to be involved with that part of the campaign, with scheduling the meetings with councilors. And so, if you fill out a volunteer card, then you can indicate how you want to get connected to the campaign, how you want to be involved, and we'll start getting you campaign updates. So, thanks a lot for coming out, and thanks again to the speakers.
We're going to close that right now by the indispensable, very generous, very gracious, extraordinarily talented Red Valley Fog. Right. Thank you.
This has been a really wonderful event, and I want to introduce this song by first asking, has anyone here ever heard of Phil Oakes before tonight? A few people. Well, Phil Oakes, there's actually a movie that just came out about him. He was a man of the left, and so am I. This song is called Love Me, I'm a Liberal. And it was written in the 60s originally. We had to find an updated version of this song from our friends Magpie, and we helped to change a few more of the words to make it a little more timely. You know, I think that before I ever had the chance to take a philosophy course with Dr. Sheff, I had a few experiences to get a political education before that. And one of those experiences was listening to the original of this song, Love Me, I'm a Liberal, because it kind of helped to distinguish a little bit what's the difference between a liberal and a leftist. If these terms matter to you, they matter to me. I encourage you to sing along. If you like this song, I encourage you to sing along with the chorus.
Very easy.
Love me, I'm a liberal. That's the...
I cried when they shot Medgar Evers. Tears ran down my spine. And I cried when they shot Mr. Kennedy, as though I'd lost a father of mine. But Malcolm X got what was coming. He got what he asked for that time. So love me, love me, love me, I'm a liberal. I went to civil rights rallies, and with tolerance we've sure raised the bar. I love Oprah and Michael and Tiger. I hope every black kid becomes a star. But don't talk about revolution, that's going a little bit too far. So love me, love me, love me, I'm a liberal. I cheered when Obama was chosen, my faith in the system restored. And I'm glad that they caught Bernie Madoff, he certainly got his reward. And I love Pakistanis and Arabs, as long as they don't move next door. So love me, love me, love me, I'm a liberal. Those crazies who joined the Tea Parties should all hang their heads in shame. Now I can't understand how their minds work. Way too much Glenn Beck on the brain. But if you want socialized health care, you must be terminally insane. So love me, love me, love me, I'm a liberal. I read MoveOn.org and The Onion. I've learned to take every view. I watch Bill Maher and Jon Stewart. I use irony in everything I do. But when it comes to the war on terror, there's no one more red, white, and blue. So love me, love me, love me, I'm a liberal. I vote for the Democratic Party. They've refocused on Afghanistan. I saw Bono at the Live Aid concert, felt so connected to every woman and man. We're gonna make poverty history. I'm Facebooking all our demands. So love me, love me, love me, I'm a liberal. Sure, once I was young and impulsive, I wore every conceivable pin. Even went to SBS meetings, learned all the old freedom hymns.